All right, who do we have next? It's a big group, right? A
It
big
is a
party?
big group, a big party. I've been super excited about this session in particular the whole time. So first, why don't we go ahead and bring in the host of it all, Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Hostess with the mostest here to join us.
Chloe, I can't compete with your pink headphones.
We need to get you some pink ones.
Yes.
Yes. It's I wish you could see all the pink things on my desk right now. I've got all kinds of props here. I've got y'all my favorite purchase of 2021, a desk vacuum for all the little crumbs from my snacks. Amazon.com,
Yes.
$5.
I probably need one of those, to be honest with you.
Life-changing.
Totally life-changing. Well, Jennifer, we are super excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us along with our amazing panel. So I'm going to go ahead and start welcoming them. Or actually, I'm going to have you welcome them. I'm going to pop them on one at a time, and we'll get going from there.
Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I am Jennifer Ritzinger, and I am so excited to be hosting the next hour. The panel is how it started versus how it's going from student to professional. And we have 5 amazing panelists today that are joining. Abby, she coming in. Alessandro, Jalen, Kendra, and Orko. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
It's a party.
Hello.
Yay, welcome, welcome, welcome. So I am so excited to host this panel today because I know this ambassadors have so many questions about your jobs and your roles in the profession, in the industry, working at Microsoft, and how it went from your transition of being a student to becoming a professional and what's that like. And the one thing that I'm excited about to share today is that we met, we prepped, and we shared a little bit about our stories. And guess what? They're all completely different. And that's what I love. I love the variety. I love the diversity. You're going to hear about different paths, different journeys. There is no one way. There is no right way. There's your way. And that's what's important. So I think we're going to start by everyone's going to do a short little introduction of themselves. Morgan, have you posted the slides? I don't see them. Wow, that's like magic. Awesome. And if you go to the next one, I'll kick off a little bit about myself. Oh, and by the way, I loved the whole thing yesterday with the Scott Hanselman keynote. I loved how Morgan and Pablo were just interrupting and that you were living on the edge and being dangerous. So feel free to do that today too. Chime on in if we miss something. Moderators in the back, I know you're listening, so I would love that if you want to interrupt us and keep us on the edge. So, okay, so my slide, obviously I'm the oldest. I'm the old one here, but I relish in that because I have, the luxury of making a lot of mistakes and not being kind of being okay with it. I think one thing as you get a lot of career experience and as you get older, it's like bring on the failures. That's how I learn the most. Those are the lessons that stay with me the longest. And I've done a lot of that over the years. So I'm not going to go through all my different jobs, but I want to explain to you, like when I was in school and I was studying journalism and poli-sci, I never in a million years thought that I would wind up working for Microsoft, working at a company for almost 25 years. I never thought that I was going to live in the Mariana Islands over in Saipan. I never thought I was going to live in Hawaii. I never thought I was going to be a high school teacher. I never thought that I was going to be doing executive communications for a corporate vice president. I didn't even know what some of these things meant. But the point is I was open, I was willing, I had mentors who saw things in me that I didn't see, and I tried all these different things. And honestly, I made so many mistakes. I didn't know what a business manager was. I didn't know what it meant to run Build, one of our largest conferences that we put on at Microsoft, but I was given these opportunities and I worked with a lot of great people that were there to support me. And I've had a fantastic time. One of the questions I get asked the most is, why am I still at Microsoft after almost 25 years? The answer is simple. I'm still learning. I'm still getting stimulated all the time. There's so much opportunity and people that I'm learning from that it's really hard to get bored. I love this company. It's just something new and different every single day. So that's just a little bit about me. It's a little bit of a spaghetti path, but that's totally okay. That's my journey. And so with that, we're going to hand it over to Abby to learn a little bit more about her.
Hello. So in high school, 2008, I was so sure that I was going to be an anesthesiologist. I was the bio queen. I shadowed a nurse anesthetist at the local hospital. I mean, I knew my future. I started college in August of 2012 with a biomedical engineering track, as well as electrical and computer engineering, because I was a little bit of an overachiever. And then I realized, I don't really think I'm cut out for 12 years of school, residency, and beyond. I was not ready to start my career at 32. But I thought electricity was pretty cool. Helped that I had a really awesome, super duper introduction to electricity by this crazy Russian dude. And this evolved into internships at Raytheon, MIT Lincoln Laboratory. And through those internships, I realized that board design really wasn't for me. So I last minute picked up a computer science minor. And I was a little late to the game. I think it was my senior year that I picked up the minor. And that put me behind a lot of my peers. So I wanted to work at a company like Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, but they didn't want to talk to me. I did land a firmware engineering job at IBM. And this really propelled my career into a more coding, computer science focused field. I then, after a year, got a job at Blue Origin. And this is Jeff Bezos's pet space project. And over the 2 years there, small company, lots of responsibilities thrown very quickly at junior engineers. Within 2 years, I was the ground support expert for New Shepard launches. I was in a position where during launches, I was one of the people, when they say, is ground software ready? You say yes. If you say no, the launch doesn't happen. It was an awesome time. And after 2 years, I was looking for a little bit more stability in my job, working a little less per week. And I looked a little bit north by 30 minutes, and Microsoft was there. And I said, okay, guys, you are finally going to talk to me. And they did. So I'm here. In that process, I took a slight demotion. Going from a small company to a large company can be a little bit difficult in terms of career progression. And since then, I'm well beyond the point where I was hired at, and I'm very satisfied with working here, and I plan to stay for quite a while. And I'm not in med school. If I had pursued my original track, I would still be in med school.
And you're here at Microsoft, and we're so glad that you're here. Thanks, Abby. Over to Alessandro.
Hey, everyone. Nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me here today. And I believe I'm actually the only one in this panel who does not report into an engineering org. So for me, you are hopefully going to hear a slightly different perspective. Just very briefly about me, you probably can tell from my accent that I'm actually Italian. I was born in a small town near Venice, Italy, called Vicenza. And when I was in high school, I was really passionate about software development. I built my first cloud app. The cloud wasn't even a thing back then, but I built my first cloud app when I was in high school just for fun. And I really wanted to become a startupper. I had this dream. I want to start my own small company. I want to become a startupper. And so when it was time for me to decide what to do in college, I, however, just for some reason that I honestly can't even remember at this point, I decided instead that I wanted to go to business school. And so I went to Milan and I got my bachelor in business, which was a very interesting opportunity, especially because the school where I was in, Bocconi University, was very international in the sense that not just there were students from all over the world, but it was very much open in terms of international knowledge and skills and exposure. And so after my bachelor, I decided that I wanted to go study abroad. And I did a program called MBET, which stands for Master in Business Entrepreneurship and Technology. It's a sort of MBA, sort of. And I flew all the way to Waterloo, Ontario. Probably I would expect a bunch of people are familiar with that school. I actually was not at all until I applied for that program. And I spent 1 year there. It was amazing. I said that I wanted to be involved with startups, and that was one of the best places to be involved in that kind of dynamic technological environment. And so after I completed my program, I found a job as a lead and for a while also only developer at a small startup in the Toronto area. We were building, today you would call like a SaaS application. And then one evening, it was a snowy evening in, I think it was February. Yes, it was February. It was a snowy evening, and I get a phone call from a recruiter at Microsoft saying, "Are you interested in joining Microsoft Canada?" I'm like, well, I mean, I've never thought about this, but sure, let's talk. And one of the thing that was really the most different about that experience is that I was actually hired in a sales job. You see here Azure TSP. TSP means Technology Solutions Professional. In the industry, it's generally called sales engineer. So I was actually in the sales org. I was in the field. My job was to go out and talk to customers, and it was about telling them the value of Azure, not really from a business perspective. That was the job of the real salespeople. But as a sales engineer, I was the one that was proving the concept and teaching them how to adopt the cloud. And that was something that I would have never considered, but it was such an amazing experience. And I think we're going to talk about like other like non-product jobs later in this panel. So a couple of years later, I got another phone call in an evening in a snowy night. It's always snowy in Toronto. And I get the opportunity to move to the mothership, aka corporate. So a few months later, I flew to Seattle, and now I'm here. And now I'm the product marketing manager for Visual Studio Code. I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with that, and I am really loving my job. This is one of the best teams at Microsoft that I've ever worked with, and I'm really excited about this.
Thank you, Alessandro. We love our partners in marketing, and I just want to say that I am a non-technical person in engineering, so it takes all types, and we can explore those different paths. Actually, you can be quite fluid in your career over time. So thank you. Okay, so up next we have Jalen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jalen. I graduated high school in 2016. And then right after I graduated high school, the summer between high school and college, I had my first software development internship working at a startup. So that was kind of one of my first introductions into like actually working with like corporate software and working with companies and coding for an actual job. And then right after my internship ended in August of 2016, I started college at North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then pretty much when I started, I really was learning about what kinds of job experience I could get. I knew job experience would be really important for me in college. So I researched different research internships I could participate in. And the first one I got was in an electrical engineering lab, actually working with Madagascar hissing cockroaches and working with trying to figure out how to track their paths. And it was a really fun project. And then throughout the rest of my college experience, I continued to do similar things. Like I studied abroad in China during the summer of 2017 and got to work on a project with Caterpillar. And then in May of 2018, I had my first PM internship at a company near my college. And that's when everything kind of changed for me. I was really, my first 2 years of college, I was so into electrical and computer engineering. Those were my two majors. They had a dual major at my school. And I was so into energy. I was so into learning about hardware, electronics. But then I had my first PM internship, and I really learned that that was more my passion. I was much more passionate about building things and solving problems and taking a team approach to anything, whether it be a hardware product or a software product or any type of problems, that's where I really thrived, in working with others to create solutions to problems a company or a team was facing. So that's when I changed majors to industrial and systems engineering, because there I was able to focus a lot more on software instead of hardware. And I was also able to get very much into data analytics, which became my minor. And then in August of 2019, it was my first PM internship at Microsoft, on this team, on Jennifer's team, working with student developers. And then when I went back to school in 2019, I was an industrial engineering research intern, coding with Python, really working with Azure on a few data tools that my professor was building. And then in August of 2020, I got my second Microsoft PM internship in 1ES, which is One Engineering System, which is a tool at Microsoft that really focuses on building tools that Microsoft can use. And I graduated from college in December of 2020. And now I'm a full-time PM here at Microsoft. So I'm really loving what I'm doing, excited to work with student ambassadors. It's what I get to do every day. I'm really happy to be here.
Jalen, and of course, I love working with you. I love being teammates and colleagues. And what I think is really cool is that I count my career in decades, you're counting your career in weeks, and yet we're still learning from one another. And I really appreciate that. I love your perspective. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay, over to Kendra.
Hey everyone, cool, hi. I love learning about everyone else's stories. This is a great path. Everyone figured it out. So hi, I was I went to the University of Oklahoma. I actually graduated high school in 2011. I left that off the top. I lucked out so much. I got a student developer job for the Modern Languages, Literatures, and Linguistics department at university when I didn't know anything about coding, but they happened to hire me, and it was kind of just a learn as you go, which was really lucky. And I applied to Microsoft. Just I knew I did not have the qualifications, but it turned out they had an Explorer program for people who were beginning computer science, and I was like, perfect, I know nothing. I'm perfect for this. So I looked out and got into that, and I just kept really liking computer science. So I did start as a French major. I completed my French major and everything, but I added linguistics and computer science minors, and yeah, definitely off the beaten path, as I think many of the past people have been as well. So we're in good company here. So I got a second Microsoft internship as well, and I graduated in 2016, and I've just been Microsoft straight out of college, 2 internships for the past 4 years. And yeah, just having a lot of fun doing it. I work mostly on the test experience and test platform in Visual Studio. So if you've ever opened that Test Explorer, I designed it, I redesigned it, and we implemented a brand new one in 16.2. It was cool. I also have made a lot of videos on learning, just because I also had a background in just fun video making, and I just wanted to apply it and help promote tools, and that turned into a kind of a cool learn C# and learn .NET series that are on YouTube with Hanselman. You should check them out if you like them, if you want to learn C#. And yeah, so it's just a kind of a wild experience of figuring out that I can actually apply skills that I have, and we need all kinds of skill sets in tech, so it's really fun.
Speak any French?
French.
French.
Oui, oui. Je peux parler français.
I love it. That's so great. Thanks, Kendra. Okay, our last panelist, last but not least, is Orko. Hi, Orko.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. This is awesome to join this panel and this event. I just learned from Morgan backstage that there's a lot of Bangladeshi peeps who have tuned in for this event. And so just to let you know, I'm also from Bangladesh, from the bustling capital of Bangladesh, which is a sweet little beautiful city in country in South Asia. And so that's where I'm from. I moved to the US in 2006 for college. It was a, move 10,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean and just to a completely new, different environment. So at the time, I was pursuing electrical engineering, or kind of oscillating between economics and engineering. I think I chose engineering because the engineering courses or classes were later in the day, as opposed to the economics courses, which were at 8 a.m. and I was jet lagged. That's the story I like to tell. But I hadn't really done a lot of coding, to be honest. Before that, I had done some QBasic, some MS Access, if you remember that database system. But even in college, I took one course in computer science in Java. I'd done some block-based coding, but that was pretty much my experience. So I was very, very, coming into a new country, really into experiencing the new culture, meeting new people. I hadn't really thought about what I was going to do after college. So when graduation happened, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I ended up kind of pursuing grad school at University of Connecticut. I got into a PhD program, and that's really where I started doing some coding. Some C++, some C, Java, and really started to get into it and realize, okay, I kind of like this. So as I was doing my, in PhD program, when I was writing papers, I was taking my courses, I kind of done that. I had this itch to really go in and kind of see what the industry was doing. So from that, I kind of got myself into a couple of internships at Pfizer, which is a pharmaceutical company, but vaguely related to software development, not a lot of relation to that, but really sort of having worked in that space, then I kind of realized, okay, I really wanted to do that. I wanted to work at a company, build some products that end users could use and see what that experience was like. So with that, I kind of packed up my bags, and in 2013, I kind of dropped out with a master's, and I started my first job at Hewlett Packard. Well, it was Hewlett Packard Company back in the day, before they split into Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And there I got to really learn in, coding in the industry, like actual code that would be well tested, put out in and being used by folks. And I got to use Docker and a few other cool technologies before they got cool. This was in 2014 when Docker was just becoming this cool microservices container technology. And so kind of did that for about 3 years, and then decided kind of wanted to try some new things. Funny story about me coming into Microsoft. Actually, I was approached by a recruiter from the Office team on LinkedIn, and I was like very excited. I was like, "Cool, this is really cool. I've used Office products all my life. I really want to use these products, and I really want to be part of this team that's going to develop them." So I said, "Yes, I'm very excited." I put my resume into Microsoft's system, and then the recruiter actually responded back to me, but her responses ended up in my spam folder in Gmail, and for I think 3 months later is when I figured out that those were in the spam folder. But in between, somebody else from the one of our dev managers from the Azure DevOps team actually reached out to me directly. I think she found my resume and thought I would be a good fit, and she reached out to me. And I had no idea really how the recruiting process works, so I ended up going in and applying, and then I ended up in the Azure DevOps team. I applied, and I've kind of joined a team that I am in to this day. I mean, we have been through a few reorgs, but I have kind of been in this team for the last almost 5-ish years now. What I do right now is work in the developer productivity space, particularly in security and compliance, making our engineering systems, our code bases, our build systems and release systems more secure and compliant, so that we're not getting hacked, and we're not being compromised. And I have loved every moment of it. As some of the other panelists have mentioned, it's always a learning experience every single day, and so very glad to be here.
So it sounds like the lesson is check your spam folder.
Yes, it is. I did reach out to the recruiter later, and I said, "Hey, I'm so sorry I never responded to you. You ended up in my spam folder."
That's funny. Okay, well, we're going to bring in all the panelists. Just a reminder to all the students, please submit your questions. We actually already have a bunch that I want to get to. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. So the first question is, we work at one of the largest tech companies in the world. And there's a lot of cool things, but also some things that maybe are imperfect. So we want to talk a little bit about that. We want to be balanced. So let's start with, what is one of your favorite things about working at Microsoft? Orko, let's start with you.
Ooh, I think I honestly am going to say that the learning culture here. In our team, for example, we have monthly day of learnings that we have where you can just go in and learn anything that you want. It doesn't have to be related to product. I know we have the week-long hackathon every year. So there's always that opportunity. So I love that. Like you can go in and explore any random technology, and if you like it, if you bring it back to your team, you can develop on it. Products have been built out of it. I can give you an example within our team right now that's happening that could potentially end up becoming a separate product. So that's that. I love that part.
Growth mindset. Abby, what about you? What's one of your favorite things about Microsoft?
Let's see. I like a change of scenery constantly. I was that person. My roommate came back in college to a new room every 3 months. And with a large company, you can have a change of scenery very often. The company's doing so much. With a smaller company, say Blue Origin, it's all rockets. So if you want to do something that's not rockets, you have to leave the company.
That's a good point, right? People forget, like, we make things as diverse as Minecraft, Xbox, DevOps, Office. I mean, the teams. We really are the diverse company, and you can have a lot of different change of scenes. I like that. Okay, Alessandro, I'm going to change it up a little bit. What's one of your least favorite things about Microsoft?
Oh, no, I would say that sometimes the fact that we work in such a big company, and keep in mind, you probably heard in the intro that I wanted to become a startup, and I did work at a startup, and then here I am in one of the biggest companies in the world. And sometimes it requires thinking in a different way, but that might not necessarily always be a bad thing, but it does require learning how to scale to other people, learning how to partner with other people. And one thing that it's a good thing for me, but can take some adjustment is the fact that you really have to work on a team to get anything done, really.
Yeah, we refer to it as the matrix, and really to be successful at Microsoft, you have to embrace the matrix. That's really the like, don't fight it. It's like resisting gravity. Just embrace it and leverage it and capitalize on it. Kendra, what about you? Alessandro?
I just want to say, because we have to scale, we have access to so many resources, and the stuff we can do is amazing. The resources in terms of people, but also in terms of any other kind of resources, and we can really do beautiful things also for the world. Sorry.
It's true, and the potential is unlimited. Kendra, what's a challenge for you about Microsoft?
This is so great. I think I have a love-hate relationship with how pedantic we try to be. It's actually bananas how much we try to use good formulas and good data and good like customer development and hypothesis for progression and experiments that make sense, but not all teams do. So I think it's again just working in a huge broad organization and needing to hope that other teams respect p-values and know when conclusions aren't statistically relevant, and kind of like, but I do also know that as wild as it is out there, we have multiple different formulas for calculating things like customer satisfaction, and then we like publish them across teams, and there's no way to compare them over time. Like it's just, there's not great data. We don't handle it there. We're a little bit irresponsible with how we use formulas, but Microsoft is probably one of the most organized organizations when it comes to being able to share data across groups. So like it's imperfect, but also the best world. I don't know. It irks me, but I'm also like believing in a better future. Yeah.
I like that answer. I think it's messy. I think it's a little bit messy, but there's so much potential in all of it. It's
yeah. It's like both messy and academically respectable, and I don't know. Well, yeah, the in between in that. It's funny.
And Jalen, you've only been here for a couple of months officially. You've done a couple of internships, but you've only been here as a full-time employee for a couple of months. What are you liking so far?
Yeah, well, like others mentioned, the learning opportunities are really tremendous here. Our group also has like day of learnings where I've taken advantage of Microsoft Learn and other like online learning platforms that are available to us as employees. So I think that that's really one of the best things that a company can do for their employees is to encourage them to continue to get better at their craft. And then another thing that I really love about Microsoft is the hugeness of it. Like I can reach out to a professional in any area of technology and learn from them like very quickly, just with a message on Teams. And you know that people who are here are domain experts and they have a wide array of knowledge. So it's really easy to really quickly learn what you need from others at Microsoft. So those are the two things I think I'd say.
Very cool. Okay, let's talk a little bit about culture. So there's a pretty famous saying that culture can eat strategy for breakfast. It was made famous by Peter Drucker a long time ago. And really the essence of that is you can have a great business plan, you can have a great business value proposition and a great product, but if your culture sucks, your company is probably going to fall apart. And culture is really about the philosophy in terms of how we treat one another, what our core values are, how we work together. It's kind of like how you get things done. It's not what you get done, but how you get things done. And this is really important. And me being at Microsoft for 20 plus years, I can say for a fact, because I've lived through it, that Microsoft culture has definitely evolved. And culture is a fluid thing anyway. It's a living organism, right? It's always changing. But, you know, I've been here, I was here under Bill Gates. I was here during Steve Ballmer. It's here during Satya Nadella. So I've seen the reign of 3 different leaders. And it's been a fascinating case study. But I want to hear from each of you about what is really important to culture and what keeps you at a company, or why you might choose to leave a company because of culture. So when you think about things like growth mindset, being customer obsessed, diversity and inclusion, making a difference, having an impact, what's important to you when you think about culture? So let's start with Kendra.
Ooh, I get to go first. Oh, goody. Immediately the first one is diversity. That comes to mind. I can't believe I'm actually I have like an old perspective because I started in 2016 or wait, earlier? 2014? 2016? I forget what my slide said now. That's weird. But when I joined, I was actually part of an intern pod that were 3 women. And the rest of our entire working group was 40 dudes, middle-aged people who had been programming longer than we had been alive in many, many cases. And it was strange. And then over the last, 5 years, oh yeah, I did start in 2014. I started full-time in 2016. Sorry, that's why. Why can I remember it? It's Saturday. Anyway. Seeing the massive shift in how diverse my coworkers actually are has been absolutely amazing, and getting to like mentor and actually observe the massive change in just my like local working group. I work with women. Sometimes I go into like conference rooms and it's half women now. It's amazing. So like seeing that, and also seeing the energy that it brings and the way different approach. We're way more focused on like students and international outreach, and it totally does like change the way we develop the product. And we're way better, oh my God, about like accessibility. We get to interview like blind developers and change our product because our narrator sucks sometimes. It's really cool. So that's the big one for me. And it's still changing.
It is. I love it.
Has to keep changing for sure.
It has to, right?
Yeah.
It has to evolve. Can't stagnate. Italy Pale Ale, what is important to you when it comes to culture?
So for me, I think Orko and yourself, Jennifer, mentioned that already a little bit. The thing that I really love about Microsoft culture is this continuous learning. Is this idea that not only we have to continue to learn something new every single day, but also that we have to continue to improve ourselves. That's what we call growth mindset, right? Like we make mistakes, we learn from the mistakes, and we do better next time. And because of that, we grow as individuals and also as professionals. And when this is also like something that when people ask me, how should I approach an interview at Microsoft? Well, one of the advices I always give people is that many times when I interviewed people, I turned down candidates that probably had all the right answers, but they sounded like they knew that thing and they didn't show any aptitude for learning. And instead, I prefer candidates who maybe didn't give all the right answers, maybe stopped at a certain point, but I could tell that they really wanted to learn and improve. And those people, not only they got the job, but seeing them progress in their career, they usually did much better than the other ones too. So keep learning.
Always keep learning. Okay, I have a question for Orko and Abby, and it's come from Louisa in Columbia, Dallas, who is getting her master's. I want to be a software engineer. What Azure tools, certifications, or skills should I get so I can get my first job? Abby or Orko, our engineers on the panel?
I think for me, I feel like it's not quite. I wouldn't say like I don't have any Azure certifications. And when I came into this job, I didn't really have any Azure certifications. So I'm not, but I'm sure they're like a great way of learning about Azure and different Azure tools. I think that's the important piece. Whether or not you are you have a certification, or whether you have a GitHub repo where you're showcasing some of the things that you learned, or some one way or another. I think at the end of the day, that's what it is, really, to demonstrate that you have learned. I think that's the piece, the learning about those technologies. I think specifically, if you're talking about technologies, I think sort of the machine learning aspect of things is really up and coming now. So that might be something cool to learn. It's something that I'm trying to personally pursue as well, because I haven't gone into machine learning as much in the past. But outside of that, I mean, any of those big data technologies like the databases, the web services, really any of these, and Azure comes with a whole host of these, technologies and tools that you can use, that you are going to be using either as a customer or even within Microsoft. So just learning any of these tools is I think, a super cool thing to have, cool thing to show to potential prospective employees or employers.
Abby?
So I've been involved in hiring at multiple companies. And the thing that I have always valued most, and I found that a lot of my coworkers value most, is asking the question, does this make sense? This inquisitive willingness to search for more information. When we're talking about the first job, raw technical ability is not the primary focus. We're looking for people who are interested in learning more, have the initiative to learn more, and can use those things that they learn in new situations. If you have prior knowledge of distributed systems or some internship experience, that's just a bonus.
That's awesome. Great advice. Okay, so this is a question for PMs on the team. So this is from Alan in Mexico. He wants to know how he can start to make, being a PM an area of specialty, especially if his background is in computer science. How does he ace the job interview for a PM?
I could take a swing at this one. I've been on many interview rounds now to get PMs, and I actually think specializing in a specific developer technology isn't super important, which sounds odd. It's more like being able to empathize with whatever customer you're working with right now. Because even like my specific job creating testing tools, there's millions of people that use it, and they're all very different. So even if I was very deep on one technology, if I didn't have I guess the empathy to kind of consider all situations and all different combinations, that's even more preferable than getting deep. I would say it's almost which technology, definitely look into things that give you energy and what you're passionate about. For me, it was like a combination of getting started tools and sort of the basics and smoothing out the experience, because we have hundreds of thousands of people who try out C# and Visual Studio, and the funnel narrows for the people who stick with it and keep going and are able to actually build their careers on some of it. So looking at that was just really interesting, and that kept growing, and that always helped me. So go deep on something that gives you interest for sure. Be passionate, but as you're stepping through it, just observe and keep an open mind of what problems you see in an experience. I take a lot of notes if I'm stepping through a technology for the first time. And I think it's having an open mind, an empathetic approach, saying like, oh, but like if my download speeds were, a third as fast as what I'm actually experiencing, how would this experience be affected? Would I have given up on the install at this point? Which is actually something we addressed in our product. We had to make smaller installs and allow people to like install things later down the road with initial workloads. So like it all kind of rolls up into it. But empathy is a big one.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with what Kendra mentioned. I would also talk about specifically for this student, build something for someone and iterate on what you built based on the feedback they gave you, and then write about your entire process on a blog, in a journal, or something. And then that is a lot of what PMs do. Not so much the building stuff, because we have great engineers to build different things, but really figuring out what customers care about and figuring out how we should iterate on a product or a service or a program to make it better for the customers that we serve. And then as a student, writing about things and like having a blog that says, this is what I'm building. This is what I heard from my friends who I built it for. This is what I changed up. This is what I added to it based on the feedback that I got. That is tremendous. And that's something that not a lot of students do, because they're in school and they have other stuff to write about. But I think for me, just coming fresh out of school, that's something that really helped me not just understand what it takes to build a good product, but also what it takes to be a good PM. Figuring out what customer feedback to take and not take, and writing about like, I took this feedback because it was XYZ, or I didn't take this because I didn't feel like it applied to a big enough audience. That kind of stuff is tremendous. And that's definitely what I would recommend the student do. Build something, iterate on it, and write about it.
I love that, Jalen. That's great advice. So speaking of PMs, so Orko and Abby, you can see from their titles, they're software engineers, but we have a couple of different PMs here between Kendra and Alessandro and Jalen. We'd love to understand that a little bit better. Alessandro, you're a product marketing manager in marketing. Kendra, you're a PM, like a classic PM in engineering. And then Jalen, you're part of an advocacy and evangelism team who is a PM. So similar titles, but probably slightly different roles. So do you want to talk a little bit more specifically about what you do and what that means? Alessandro, maybe we'll start with you. What is your PMM role?
That is a great question. I as a PMM at Microsoft does a lot of things. I think that sometimes it also depends on the individual. I tend to be a little bit more technical, so I focus a little bit more on the product management side at times. But there is a lot of things that are more broadly looking at the product and like what's the overall strategy for the product, and how do we, and especially what's the overall go-to-market strategy for the product. So for VS Code, I work with a lot of people in the DevRel organization to decide what we can best promote it through content, through events. I work with people in engineering to make sure that whatever the amazing things they're building, we can talk about them in the best way possible. And there's so many other things, but I'll let someone else go.
Kendra, what about you?
Yeah, so the question was just what the difference of roles were. So you called me a classic PM. Thank you. I try to be as classy as possible at all times. So yeah, a lot of mine is actually getting into the trenches with the developers and figuring out why we can't do a certain thing, and learning how to tell the story. And this kind of calls back to what we also look for in interviews, what we were talking about just now with how Jalen was saying, take notes and be able to talk about it, write about it. I think that's all about constructing the narrative. So why did a team say no when we ask for certain support? What are their customers? How can we tell the story? Is there a big customer that uses this, that we can, it's almost like a negotiation, sometimes working with partner teams. And then a lot of it is just calling back to taking customer feedback and learning sort of incrementally how to change the product, is what I do a lot. I also have a whole part that's actually probably closer to what Jalen does, which is just the customer conferences and content and media and promotion of our tools, which I feel lucky I could do both.
Yeah, and my role is still new, just being here about 3 months. And my team has been awesome about allowing me to kind of define different aspects of my role. But one of the core things I'm working on right now is really figuring out how we can improve the student ambassador experience to make it as great as possible for current student ambassadors and future student ambassadors. So for the ambassadors listening, working with improving the leagues specifically and really improving the engagement. And there are some of the things that I'm working on right now. But also working on how do we, as Microsoft, understand students? What does the student demographic look like? What do students care about? What are they motivated by? Those are some really important questions that I'll work to answer over the course of my job, just getting started, but those are some of the more important things. So not necessarily working on a specific product, but more how Microsoft communicates with students and understands students is going to be a large part of my role. So yeah.
That's right. Okay, this question is for Orko and Abby. It's from Priyanshu in India. They ask, how do you deal with a stressful moment as a developer? For example, when you're under a time pressure to fix a bug. Abby?
Cry in a corner? No, I'm just kidding.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. No. At least not for long. But the stress can come from a myriad of reasons. Time is definitely a huge one. The fact that something is unknown can definitely be a huge one. Where do you even start? And for me, it's just head down. If I feel stuck, remind myself that, I'm a competent human being, or at least I think I am. So I can do this. It's confidence in my abilities to figure something out. And that is definitely a learned skill, but that's how I deal with it.
For me, I think it kind of comes back to the culture point that we were talking about. I think here we're currently going through our team is really trying to deliver on a strict deadline right now, and it's been pretty stressful, and we've been working long hours and stuff like that. But I think the important piece of it is that we need to have that ability to say no. That, like, if you're thinking that, like, you're rushing me on this is going to turn out to be a terrible product that I will develop in like few hours, and then we're going to have 20 different bugs to deal with for the next weeks to come. We need to have it in our culture, and I'm thankful for that within our team, that we have that culture of being able to say no, and kind of push back at it and say, hey, look, I understand that this is what we want to do, but this is going to end up costing us more in the long run. And at a personal level, I think in terms of handling stress, I think, like just the whole situation that we're in, the world that we're living in right now with the pandemic, I think folks are working. We're saying working from home, but really, I guess we're working at home, so it's not the same. And so, it's that whole like 8 to 5 or like this is how I work kind of goes out of the window. So I personally, have been taking, especially in Seattle when it's gotten dark around 4 o'clock, I've been taking evening naps at 4 o'clock because my body just wants to shut down. And I've told my team, and my team understands that like around 4 o'clock, Orko is probably not going to be here for a couple of hours. I might answer some questions later if I'm feeling up to it, but stuff, or like, so try and figure out, I guess the answer is that try and figure out what works for you. And try and stick to it. Tell your team, communicate, make sure that your manager is aware, make sure your team is aware, and then that way sort of you can ensure that those are the set expectations and that's what you're delivering on. Yeah.
And just to add to that, I just had my stress reliever join me.
I have my two right here. They help. And I just have to add, I do feel like it gets a little easier, like the more stressful experiences you live through and you survive and you realize you can handle and you can manage. And it's not that it gets easier, but like you get, like Abby said, you get confidence in yourself. It's like, okay, everyone take a deep breath. We can handle this. We've gotten ourselves out of worse situations. So just get some perspective. But again, but like I said, when I opened, I feel like making mistakes is just part of the deal. And like, let's make them so we can learn from them. So don't be afraid of it. Okay, I love this question from Rachel in Malaysia. She's asked, should I choose a career based on my passion or what I've studied in university, or integrate both? For the group, anyone?
Classic question. Yeah.
That is a very good one.
Actually, I'm sorry, I lost the last part of the question. Could you?
The question is, should I choose a career based on my passion or what I've studied in university? Hopefully what you studied in university has a little bit of your passion, or should I integrate both?
I guess I can go. I think it's very important to connect your passion. As I mentioned, I started off with an electrical engineering background, and here I am in software engineering, which you may think that, okay, they're both engineering. Maybe there's not a lot of difference, but honestly, there is. And so if you are not going to be interested in something, you're going to burn yourself out, and eventually you're going to realize that you don't like this. And then, you may have spent, and you can say, it's okay to have explored something and not liked it and then moved on to something else. That's completely fine. Everybody does that. That's like the whole learning process. But that's kind of what's going to happen, is eventually you will go towards it. So even if you force yourself to do something else right now. So, and there may be various reasons for doing that. But at the same time, I totally think, yes, you need to, at any point, recognize whether or not you're waking up in the morning and really feeling like, you want to do this. And there are days when you're going to have difficult days, even in the most thing that you love the most. That's kind of different. But at the end of the day, in the long run, are you kind of, do you have the drive, and are you feeling like that you actually, this really resonates with you? Otherwise, you're going to burn out and you're going to want to do something else down the line.
I'd like to add to that a little bit. Software engineering is not my passion. My passions are strategy video games, cake, and my cats. I can apply my love for strategy games to software engineering problems, and my paycheck helps me provide for my cats and buy cake. So that's kind of how I combine these things. It doesn't have to be, your job doesn't have to be the one thing that you live for, you wake up for.
And in fact,
it
shouldn't be, I hope. I hope people have lots of diverse interests. That's a great answer. That's a great supplemental answer, Abby, that not everything has to be tied up in work in terms of your passion. You can have lots of diverse interests, and hopefully you do explore those. Okay, so we are winding down. We're getting close to the end of our panel. So I would love to know from the group, over the last year during the pandemic, aside from, of course, missing your loved ones, friends, family, colleagues, of course, can you share something that you have been missing that maybe was a routine or a hobby or something that you just aren't able to do during COVID that has changed for you over the last year that you're really missing? Or can you share just something that you're longing for since COVID has happened? Jalen, why don't we start with you?
Okay. The first thing I'd say, definitely, I haven't gotten a haircut in a year. So I would love a chance to get a haircut. But other than that, I also haven't seen my friends in person. And I feel like I've always considered myself kind of an introvert and someone, like, I love being at home. I love being in my own place, my own space. But the pandemic has really helped me realize that I do get energy from being around others. And I do get energy from seeing my friends in person and being able to talk and laugh and just congregate and just be with friends. So that's something I'm really missing for now.
Yep, me too. Alessandro, what about you?
Well, I'll have to be saying the silly thing, which is that I actually miss traveling. For me, that was a big way to get some energy and relief, and also staying in Seattle, especially these months where there's just gray skies the entire day, was a good way to run away for a few days. But travel for me is also because I have family abroad, and so it really hurts sometimes not being able to know that you can go and see them whenever you want. I have friends in other countries, and just being able to be with them.
Yep, I can relate. I just renewed my passport, and I was like, I'm going to do this because I'm going to be traveling again. I just know it. I even got the extra big book because I'm like, I know I'm going to get back into those traveling days. Kendra, what about you? What has changed over the last year?
I also just want to grab a beer with friends. Jalen's kind of said it. There's something that you get from in-person social interaction that is definitely missing, I guess, even if we, play games online and all of that stuff. But it's been okay. I also have kind of enjoyed people not interrupting me as much throughout the day. Being able to just go really deep on one thing without being in an open office. So it's
There's been some silver linings and some new discoveries, right? And certainly at Microsoft, I can speak for this directly. It has upended our business in some ways that we would have thought about, and we will never go back. And so that's invention, that's innovation, that's moving forward, and trying to look at that in terms of the positives of what has come from this situation. But it's been hard. Orko, what about you?
Oh, geez. If I mention things, it's going to sound really fickle because, I'm healthy and I'm at work and I'm employed. So I really can't complain. But honestly, those I think the stuff that other folks have mentioned, the normalcy of it, I think I'm missing being stuck in traffic, driving to work on during the day. Miss not having to scavenge for lunch in the fridge and instead being able to go to a cafeteria on campus and getting food. Really these little things, not being able to being in person like that, being in a room for a meeting. Although I think the positive part of that is now we are becoming a lot more remote friendly. We learned how to be a lot more remote friendly, which was very important. I think a lot more important for being diverse and inclusive. So that's the silver lining to that. But yeah, just those little things that you kind of took for granted before.
Absolutely. Abby, anything to add?
I miss going to the gym every day. I was a really good physical condition, and last year I'm just a total slug.
Same.
I have so many goals.
But it's a lot of progress down the drain.
Same. I have gained the quarantine 15. I have to admit it. I've been pretty lethargic. I go from my bed to my desk to my couch to my bed. So change in scenery would be nice for sure. Okay, we have one more question and then we're going to hit the lightning round. So the question is, as a female in tech, how do you deal with the gender gap in the tech industry and stay confident?
I'm ready if you want.
Go for it.
I saw this question. I love it. I think a really big one for me is having the people you listen to and having the people you don't. So I was lucky enough to get a bunch of really good mentors when I entered a team. And when they told me I was doing well, I had to believe it. I made myself believe it, even though I was really worried about lots of stuff. And again, I joined a team when people had been programming longer than I had been alive. It was a lot to take in, and you don't want to be the dumb person and the dumbest person in the group. And it's representing, all women. That's my background. It says don't panic. Just incorporating that. And it's hard to ask for a mentor, but do it and just meet with them once a month. Get that energy from them. There's tons of awesome allies around that want to help. I'm Got Heap on Twitter. If you want to just tweet at me, I'll talk with you. Just do it.
Abby, any words of advice?
I have to really agree with Kendra on that. When I have gotten a lot of feedback over the course of my career saying that I'm doing well and lots of positive reinforcement, and you have to believe that. And when you learn to believe in yourself, gain some confidence, it's easier to realize that even when the room might be 70, 80% men, most of them don't really care. It's more about who you are as a person, how do you interact with the team, what do you bring to the company that matters. And if there's an outlier who does care that you're female, you can either ignore them, find allies to help build a wall against that, and it's a really small minority, I think, that takes the gender in the office seriously.
And then allyship is really important. And in, Jalen, Orko, Alessandro, I know we learn a lot and talk a lot about allyship at Microsoft. Any words of advice that you want to share from some of that learning about being a great ally?
I guess I could mention a couple of things. I think, like, as a male on the other side of the spectrum, I think it's important to check your biases, and it's very important to be an ally. And being an ally doesn't mean be a hero. Don't be a hero. Being an ally means being there, listening, active listening, and providing and try and help make opportunities for everybody to talk. Being an ally means, if I am speaking, and I am personally, I'm a loud speaker and a loud talker in meetings, actively taking the step back and making sure that you're not speaking 30 minutes of a 1-hour meeting. So doing those little things, making sure that you're keeping out of the way, making sure that you're not stepping on others' opportunities. That's the important piece. At the least that you can do. If other folks want to add anything.
I think for me, it starts first of all from respecting everyone and understanding that the diversity does add value, does add more value to how we think, to how we build our products, to how we operate. And so when you realize that, then it becomes almost like natural having to feel that you have to be respectful of everyone and also supporting and aligning with everyone else.
Jalen?
Yeah, I was just saying I totally agree. And especially when some people haven't taken the steps to recognize the biases they have. And in situations where that does happen, one thing that I've seen be pretty productive in the past is making sure that people who haven't been heard, that you amplify their voice and make sure that if someone has an idea and then someone may come and say the exact same thing like the other person didn't say it, make sure that you attribute ideas and perspectives to the group, and make sure that you speak out about, hey, our diversity, like Alessandro mentioned, our diversity is our strength. So that's just a few things that I'd throw in there.
Thank you. And, it is true that Microsoft has less than 30% of its employees that are women, but it's a lot better than it used to be. So we're making continual progress, and we're vigilant about it all the time. And diversity comes comes in more forms than just gender, of course, but it is something that is part of our culture. We talk about it a lot. In leadership meetings and daily meetings, it is a topic of conversation, and we're working on making those numbers better and getting better representation. And so that's exciting that we as a company care about that, and it's one of our core values. So we are at time, and I want to thank everyone, all the panelists, for joining us. To quickly close out, I'm going to do a lightning round. So we will just go in alphabetical order by first name. And these are just some simple, fun little questions, and that's how we'll close out. So are we ready? Abby is our first. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. Dawn or dusk?
Dusk.
Oh,
no, alphabetical order by first name.
Sorry. Dusk.
Dawn.
Dusk.
Dusk.
I'm a dusk too. To talk or not?
Talk.
Talk, but it shouldn't.
Talk.
Talk.
I talk too much, so sometimes don't talk. let others
And that
talk.
was TOK, as in TikTok, by the way.
Oh, that talk.
Did it sound like talk?
Oh, geez.
Yes.
Oh,
That?
yeah, TikTok.
Do the
Oh,
answers
Also
change?
got heat.
TikTok
I
or
don't have
not?
a TikTok.
Oh, I don't have a
Talk.
TikTok either.
No, mostly tick.
We're we're on hashtag Code Talk if you guys are interested in it.
Right on. And Scott Hanselman is new to TikTok, and he's making a splash over there if you want to follow him.
He's our code dad. So cute.
Yes!
So cute.
Yes!
So wholesome.
Okay, Abby, how many hours of sleep do you need to be at your best?
10. I usually only get 6.
8.
8.
6 normally, but 24 on weekends.
And that 4 o'clock nap.
Yes, so that.
Okay, flowers or trees?
Trees.
Flowers.
Trees.
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 Libraries or museums?
Museum.
Museums.
Museums.
Libraries.
Museums.
Okay, I have to ask, 'cause, Morgan won't let me live it down if I don't. Pineapples on your pizza or not?
Yes.
I'm Italian,
Absolutely.
I can't answer that.
No.
Cancel. No. Unfollow.
In moderation.
Cop out.
Sometimes, yeah, not always.
Favorite day of the week?
Tuesday.
Alessandro.
Friday.
Saturday.
Thursday evenings, because, yeah, looking forward to Friday.
It's very specific.
Because it's
Get
coming
your
up. And
nap
then, like, when you get,
in.
and when you get into Friday or Saturday, you're like, oh no, it's going to end now. So, yeah, that expectation.
Anticipation. Yeah.
Last question. If you were forced to jump into a pool of something other than water, what would it be?
Can I jump into a pool of cake?
Sure.
Bello, I saw a video on YouTube. It's so cool. I really want to try that.
Lemonade.
I have no, I guess, also cake. I can't top cake. Cake is good.
Yeah, cake is hard to beat.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your stories. I know the students I saw all the questions coming through. They're really curious about your journeys, your careers, how you got a job at Microsoft. Students, they've been sharing their Twitter handles. You can find them on LinkedIn. Go for it. Thank you so much for being so open, honest, transparent. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
Thanks,
us.
y'all.
Thank you, everyone. That was
fun.
amazing. We got a Brady Bunch almost vibe going on here. If it could just shift us around a little. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate it. And I have a feeling our student ambassadors are going to be reaching out to all of you. Like Jennifer said, there are so many questions they've been asking. An hour is just not nearly enough time to be able to get to all of them. So please, student ambassadors, reach out. This panel is amazing, as you can already tell. And thank you, every single one of you, for spending some time on your Saturday with us.
Yes, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. I'm going to go get some cake now. I think I need to eat some celebratory cake between now and my talk this evening.
Yeah, I think so. Hold on. I'm going to call Abby back up real quick. All right, Abby.
Hello.
I think this cake thing is really resonating with people.
Excellent. It should. Thank you. I'm glad to share my passions with
It's
the
a
world.
global movement.
It is. So what's the best kind of cake, in your opinion?
I really like a mousse cake,
Ooh, yes. Okay.
but
okay.
if I have to go generic, something with strawberries in it.
Yes. Okay.
And if you don't make your own cake, where do you buy it? I have to ask because our core team behind the scenes, many of which live in the Redmond and Seattle area, desperately need to know, since it seems you are very passionate about the subject.
I love Asian bakeries because the cakes aren't too sweet. Regency is an excellent one. I think there's one in Bellevue and one in Seattle. And I know there's somewhere near me in the Crossroads area. a Hong Kong bakery of some sort.
Ooh, yeah.
I love Hoffman's in Redmond. That's my go-to.
Hoffman's is
Giving
good
me
too.
FOMO. I'm over in Oakland. I think I'm going to walk over to Chinatown and get some egg tarts after this. I'm feeling
Ooh,
like
yum.
some egg tart yumminess.
Excellent choice. And I know that when the student ambassadors tuned in today for these sessions, this was really what they were wanting to know about cake and our passions and just what we're going to go spend the next few hours doing. So thank you for bringing up that very, very important topic, Abby. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Glad to share my gospel.